In the tradition of great thinkers, let us delve deeper into the nature of human cognition. It is said that our inner realm of thoughts and imagination is a mirror reflecting the external world. Without this external stimulus, the canvas of our mind remains blank, unable to paint with colors it hasn't witnessed. Consider our capacity for creativity. Our myths, legends, and tales, while they may seem unique, are in truth amalgamations of our experiences. They are constructed from the bricks of our past, shaped by the faces we've known and the stories we've lived. How can one, for instance, speak of floods symbolizing rebirth, or fires heralding renewal without having witnessed the cleansing nature of these forces or seen the rejuvenation in their wake? To ponder upon the idea of a fire or a flood without ever having experienced it is akin to describing a melody never heard or a hue never seen. One cannot conjure such notions from thin air. They must be anchored in the tangible, the real. For those of you who joined me in my previous video, you might recall our discussion on this very topic. It becomes increasingly evident that our cognitive processes are not mere vessels, but rather crucibles, wherein the raw materials of our experiences are transformed into the gold of understanding and creativity. Without us, the world lives on, but without the world, we die mentally, physically, and spiritually. So where does binary code come from? What is its external inspiration? What gave us the idea of our society's biggest accomplishment, the computer? My exploration started with Dr. Ron Eglash's TED Talk, African Origins of Math. He discussed the presence of fractal mathematics in African village layouts, fence weaving, and agriculture. Dr. Eglash highlighted their spiritual practice of divination, which employs a binary system akin to computers. He then connected this geomancy to Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz's development of today's binary system, which I plan on doing in depth, and excuse my mispronunciation. Binary means something that has two compartments, twofold, in the Merriam-Webster dictionary. The foundation of binary code is a bit. A bit is a binary digit, a 0 or a 1. Essentially, binary means polar opposite. From 1 to 0, man to woman, light to dark, good to bad, true to false, yes to no, right to left, something to nothing. It is the knowledge of things in the universe. Is a 1 a 0? No. And this information is universal, inherent in the universe. A computer can only function on what something is or is not. This is how they count, spell, and complete other functions. If 1 is a 0, there would be no 1 nor a 0, and this goes for other polarizing binary things, unless it is quantum, but that is beyond this video. Or maybe not. A bit of information is either a 1 or a 0. A combination of bits is a byte, 1001, 110, 011, 101, etc. It can be 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 combinations of bits, but eventually the standard became 8 after the Intel 8008. We have moved on to higher bit combinations, but the 8-bit system is still being used today. More bits, more patterns, more functions a computer can complete, and the more information given to the user, and/or the more information needed from the user. An 8-bit, or 2 to the power of n, with n being the number of bits, has 256 patterns combinations, which can function as a simple computer keyboard. To begin the complexities of computer logic, we begin with AND gates, combining 1s and 0s. If the inputs match, the output is a 1, but only when 2 1s are inputted. If a 00, 10, or 01 are inputted, only a 0 comes out. Other gates combine bits in various ways, creating the mind of the computer, such as the OR, NOT, XOR, NAND, and more. Geomancy comes from poetical Greek, ge meaning earth or land, and manteia meaning divination. It has been used for a millennia across Africa, Arabia, Europe, and Asia by some method of sand or earth casting. Using geomancy requires randomness. The less deliberate, the better. It mirrors a pseudo-random number generator, relying on aleatory methods for its calculations. We'll examine geomancy in 4 cultures, touching on the essentials. In India, Ramal Tantra is used. Ramal is Sanskrit for telling fortune using dice. To begin, you must first have a question, as is the case with all, if not most, geomantic systems. Using Ramal dice, which is 4 die connected using a centerpiece or 16 cards, representing the celestial bodies connected to their cultural. You will pick 4 random cards, or spin the Ramal dice, which is the aleatory measure. Once the 4 cards are picked or the dice rolled, it will represent a symbol with 4 rows with either a single dot or a single line. The single line can also be 2 dots. A line is not a dot is not a line. The basis of the geomantic computer, of the logic. The 4 rows allow 16 combinations patterns. You repeat this 8 times to get 8 4-bit pieces of information, being connected to the celestial bodies, the external world. Then cross-reference them to get 4 new 4-bit pieces of info, representing the geomantic and gate. If the line is matched with a line is produced. Other than that, a dot will be produced. This is repeated until you get the 16th 4-bit pattern, which represents an answer to your question. In China, I Ching or Yi Jing is used. It is usually translated to Book of Changes or Classic of Changes. As usual, you must first have something you want answered. Using a coin with a distinct heads and tails, flip the coin or holding them loosely, shake them and throw them into the air. What is recorded is based off the adding of numbers, with heads being 3 and tails being 2. You do this 3 times, so the values you receive are between 6 and 9. An even result, 6 or 8, is a connected line, the yang, while an odd result, 7 or 9, is 2 lines, a detached line, the yin. The yin is not yang and the yang is not yin, but they can change into the other, just like 1 and 0. This is done 6 times, creating 2 trigrams or patterns. Each pattern consists of 2 3-bit pieces, so in total a 6-bit hexagram of information with 64 possible combinations. But if you receive a 6, an X is marked in the middle of the connected line, and a 9 is assigned to O in the middle of the broken line. These markings transform the broken line into the connected line, and the connected line into the broken. The 6 and 9 represent the change and fluidity of your question, creating 2 6-bit hexagrams to look at. The trigrams have 8 patterns consisting of heaven, earth, fire, water, thunder, lake, wind, and mountain. The hexagram is a combination of these 8 symbols with their own cultural meaning. Once you have your hexagram or hexagrams, you have the answer to your question. In Nigeria, Odu Ifa is used in the Yoruba religion, Ifa, and within the African diaspora and Caribbean, such as the Santeria in Cuba. This was discussed by Dr. Ron Eglash in his TED Talk. The Ifa Yoruba religion is based on the Ifa corpus consisting of 256, 16 major and 240 minor, Odu being the foundation of the religion. Each Odu contains stories, prayers, and poetry that have been passed down through time from Orunmila, the Orisha or spirit of wisdom, knowledge, divination, and the first Babalawo or priest to walk the earth as a prophet. What the Odu represents is not written down. One complete Odu has 2 columns of 4-bit symbols. In total, an 8-bit pattern with 256 combinations, 16 major and 240 minor Odu. The 240 minor Odu are the remaining combinations from the 16 major Odu. To begin, the Babalawo initiates the ritual using one of 2 aleatory methods. The opal Ifa chain necklaces with 8 half opal nuts, or the Opan Ifa, a plate with the Erosun powder from the Erosun tree, or termite dust, is on which the Odu is drawn upon. If using the opal Ifa, the convex side of the half opal nut is open, O, and the concave side is closed, I, a 0 and 1. Once you have your question, the opal Ifa chain is thrown, and being read from right to left, you have your 8-bit piece of information. With the Opan Ifa, the Babalawo uses Aikin Ifa, 16 sacred palm nuts, and using the left palm, when cupping the right hand on top, they nonchalantly push and scoop the palm nuts into the right palm. With palm nuts remaining in the left hand, an odd number receives 2 marks written in the dust, and an even number receives 1 mark in the dust, and none, no marks. This is repeated until there are a total of 8 to 16 markings. From this Odu, the meaning is transcribed, and your question answered. In the Middle East, Ilm al-Raml is used, which means science of the sand. Though divination is forbidden in Islam in general, it has found its way through the culture, and some would say used in a more scientific manner in some instances, recited from the Quran.
يا أيها الذين آمنوا إنما الخمر والميسر والأنصاب والأزلام رجس من عمل الشيطان عمل الشيطان فاجتنبوه لعلكم تفلحون.
O ye who believe, strong drink and games of chance and idols and divining arrows are only an infamy of Satan's handiwork. Leave it aside in order that ye may succeed. One way it was permissible was by only using the names of Allah or verses from the Quran, with Ibn Khaldun writing from his famous Al-Muqaddimah, or the introduction in 1377, saying,
Consequently, the real difference between the activity of people who work with talismans and people who work with words is as follows. The activity of people who work with talismans consists in bringing down the spirituality of the spheres and tying it down with the help of pictures or numerical proportions. The result is a kind of composition that, through its nature, effects a transformation and change comparable to those effected by a ferment in the thing into which it gets. The activity of people who work with words, on the other hand, is the effect of the divine light and the support of the Lord, which they obtain through exertion and the removal of the veil. Thus, nature is forced to work for them and does so willingly with no attempt at disobedience.
The talisman form of geomancy, forbidden in Islam, was derived from the Greco-Roman culture using a 4-bit system, or tetragram, creating 16 combinations. The 16 combinations are based off the celestial bodies, creating the 4 mothers, 4 daughters, 4 nephews, 2 witnesses, 2 judges, and the final tetragram created to answer your question, called the arbitrator. Once you have your question, through an aleatory method, 4 tetragrams are created, with even numbers being 2 dots or a line, and odd numbers being 1 dot. The first 4 tetragrams being the 4 initial mothers. The next 4 tetragrams are created by, from right to left, taking each one of the initial tetragrams and turning them on their right side and stacking them on top of each other, creating the 4 daughters. An AND gate like system is then used between the tetragrams next to one another, where if the inputs are the same, the output is an even or 2 dots. If they are different, 1 dot is the output. This creates the 4 nephews. The AND gate is repeated to create the 2 judges, and again with the 2 judges to create one of the 2 witnesses, with the other witness being the first tetragram created, the first initial mother. The first initial mother and witness are put through the last AND gate to create the arbitrator, your final product to be analyzed and read upon. Around the world, various divinations exist. They all utilize an aleatory system to select numbers through primordial computational gates, which are then interpreted from a catalog of patterns. Now, how did this lead us to the creation of the computer? The Zayirja of Arabia is one likely way. The Zayirja is the letter magic form of geomancy in Arabia. The name may derive from a mixture of Persian words zaycha meaning horoscope, astronomical table, and daira meaning circle. The Zayirja, deserving of its own exploration, is an ancient tool resembling but distinct from geomancy. Think of it as a precursor to computers, an instrument that dissects thoughts. As Ibn Khaldun highlighted, rather than being mystical, the Zayirja uses a method akin to algebra, breaking ideas into their foundational components. Using the 28 letters of the Arabic alphabet, it represents 28 distinct philosophical categories. In essence, the Zayirja creates confusion, expanding your thoughts to what could be than what is, so it must fail at directly answering your question. It must not retain, preserve, or convey any recorded meanings by obliterating the question or idea given to it. I suggest checking the references for more info. Through Raymond Lull, the techniques of the Zayirja took hold in Europe. In the twilight of the Crusades, Raymond Lull, a Catalan thinker, sought dialogue over confrontation. Rather than wielding a sword, he approached Muslims with the Gospel's teachings. Educating himself in Arabic through an Arab slave he acquired, Lull deeply engaged with Muslim communities, becoming the West's pioneering missionary to them. Drawing inspiration from the Zayirja, Lull crafted the Ars Magna, a tool designed to bridge religious divides and persuade Muslims towards Christianity. He envisioned a universal code, one that resonated across all languages and monotheistic worldviews, rooted in the foundations of world religions. Utilizing his rendition of the Zayirja, Lull mingled between 16 thematic variations he termed dignities. This Lullian approach garnered the attention of European minds like Athanasius Kircher and laid groundwork for academic curriculums, even flourishing at the University of Paris until the Jesuits halted its teachings in the 16th century. Moreover, Lull's methods became the bedrock for Renaissance Christian Kabbalism. In the Age of Enlightenment, Leibniz, a spiritual beacon, stood tall, representing the old guard that understood the realms of divinity and reason. Renowned alongside Sir Isaac Newton, they're hailed as calculus's pioneers, though whispers claim Newton overshadowed Leibniz's true contributions. For Leibniz, the triad of knowledge encompassed reasoning, invention, and the dance of memory with imagination. He beheld the universe's synchronicity with mankind, championing ideas birthed from our interactions with the external. By 20, Leibniz unveiled Dissertatio de Arte Combinatoria, where, inspired by Raymond Lull, he delved into the art of combination. He envisioned math as the foundation for a universal tongue. Much like the Zayirja, he believed in breaking complex ideas into foundational symbols, like ones and zeros, recombining them to birth new concepts in a shared language. Thus, Leibniz was refining the Lullian combinatorial art, setting the stage for today's binary system, saying that,
On the combinatorial art of Lull, Athanasius Kircher, and myself, on which I make the following observations. There are two copulae in any proposition, really and not, i.e. plus and minus, on the formation of the predicaments of combinatorial art. Given something defined or a term to find definitions or equivalent terms.
he criticized Lull for his method being too narrow in scope and focused on useless terms. He also included a Lullian diagram in his work, noting that,
When I was young, I found some pleasure in the Lullian art, yet I thought also that I found some defects in it, and I said something about these in a little school boyish essay called On the Art of Combinations, published in 1666 and later reprinted without my permission. But I do not readily disdain anything, except the arts of divination, which are nothing but pure cheating, and I have found something valuable too in the art of Lully and in the Digestum Sapientiae of the Capuchin, Father Ives, which pleased me greatly because he found a way to apply Lully's generalities to useful particular problems. But it seems to me that Descartes had a profundity of an entirely different level. In spite of the advancement which much of our knowledge has received from it, however, his philosophy also has its defects, of which you cannot be unaware by this time.
in the realm of numbers, Leibniz brought forth a revelation. In 1679, through his De Progressione Dyadica, he introduced us to the beauty of dyadic, or binary simplicity, showcasing the core arithmetic operations of addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division in the binary language. Here was the foundational sketch of a calculator rooted in the ones and zeros of binary. His fascination didn't end there. In 1703, Leibniz delved into the ancient wisdom of the I Ching, penning his observations in Explication de l'arithmétique binaire. This work, blending binary arithmetic with ancient Chinese symbols of Fuxi, encapsulated his ongoing exploration, even presenting his unique I Ching diagram, writing,
What is amazing in this reckoning is that this arithmetic by 0 and 1 is found to contain the mystery of the lines of an ancient king and philosopher named Fuxi, who is believed to have lived more than 4,000 years ago, and whom the Chinese regard as the founder of their empire and their sciences, provided that one notices, firstly, that a whole line means unity or one, and secondly, that a broken line means 0. The agreement between the figures of Fuxi and my table of numbers is more obvious when the initial zeros are provided in the table. They seem superfluous, but they are useful to better show the cycles of the column, just as I have provided them in effect with little rings, to distinguish them from the necessary zeros. And this agreement leaves me with a high opinion of the depth of Fuxi's meditations, since what seems easy to us now was not so at all in those far-off times. The binary or dyadic arithmetic is in effect very easy today, with little thought required, since it is greatly assisted by our way of counting from from which it seems only the excess is removed. But this ordinary arithmetic by tens does not seem very old, and at least the Greeks and the Romans were ignorant of it and were deprived of its advantages. It seems that Europe owes its introduction to Gerbert, who became pope under the name of Sylvester Secou, who got it from the Moors of Spain.
Leibniz peered deeply into the essence of geomancy, transcending its initial bounds. He envisioned a world where the universe's mysteries, once grasped through chance, were unraveled systematically through the language of mathematics. This vision wasn't just about understanding, it was about sharing, connecting, and universal comprehension. In many ways, one can see the embryonic idea of the internet. From the seeds planted by Leibniz, the binary code blossomed, paving the way for today's computers and refined calculators. Drawing from the video's beginning, binary code wasn't a spontaneous creation in Leibniz's mind. It was birthed from external inspirations. Raymond Lull and Christian mystics informed his thought, their knowledge stemming from Spanish and Levantine Muslims with the Zayurja. But from where did these Muslims draw their insight? Perhaps ancient Egypt, or even further back. While many innovations are reflections of our observations, the flight of birds, the movement of fish, or human challenges, nature is and was our first teacher. So what in nature taught us this? If truly original ideas are birthed internally, might they have a divine connection? Ibn Khaldun linked the Zayurja to Prophet Idris, or Enoch. Similarly, Yoruba Muslims associate Ifa's origin with the prophet as well. The I Ching's roots remain elusive, but its influence is undeniable, with connections to the Ramal Tantra and Hinduism. While the exact origins of geomancy may be shrouded in mystery, its profound impact on our journey is evident. Thank you for joining this exploration. Please like, subscribe, and continue this voyage of discovery with us.